Hi everyone, welcome to the afternoon session of AusCERT. I'd like to welcome Peter Stewart today from SentinelOne to present on Tell Us Your Incident Responder. Peter has 20 years experience in security and has a passion for offensive stuff. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks. All right, how are we going, everybody? Now we are, I love the enthusiasm, very good. We are going to be looking at some console stuff, so if you want to sit as close to the screens, because it is going to be a little bit small, so you might not see it from the back. Brief history. My name is Peter Stewart. I'm basically an SC at the moment for SentinelOne. So we are going to have a few sort of vendor slides to go through. I've got 3, that's it, and then the rest of it's all going to be in the console. And we're going to reproduce an attack that happened when I was working in incident response for an airline company, not an Australian airline company, where they had 5,000 machines completely ransomed with grand crab. So what we're going to do is we're going to detonate that, have a look at what it looks like in the console, break it all down, see what the different tactics and tools that the attacker was using to get access to the machines, and then sort of dig into it from there. And hopefully at the end we'll have a bit of time for some questions. So we might just, we've got a few more people outside, we'll just let them come in. In the meantime, hopefully everyone's got a raffle ticket. So at the end, I'm going to draw it out, and I think I've just been told you have to be here to get it, or I get it, something along those lines. So, and it's definitely Lego I want, so. We've got a few more coming in. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. All right, I think we're there. Oh, grab some seats. All right, excellent. Okay, so a few questions. SentinelOne. Who's heard of SentinelOne and seen SentinelOne before? Who's heard of SentinelOne but never seen it? Excellent. Who's never heard of SentinelOne at all? Okay. Who thinks this is Microsoft Sentinel? There's always one. Come and see me at the booth. I've got a little drink holder for you later. Yeah. I was that guy, it says, yeah. But yeah, so SentinelOne is fairly new in Australia. I think our longest term employee in Australia is 2 years, but we're big in the US. So we are a US company, effectively born in Silicon Valley or Mountain View, but have roots back to Israel because our founder and CEO, Tomer, is Israeli. Okay, so a quick few vendor slides. Okay, so who is SentinelOne? Currently, offices, Tel Aviv, Mountain View, Amsterdam. We have about 20 or 30 people in Sydney or in Australia. Most of them are based in Sydney. Myself and some other sales reps are in Queensland, but we're kind of spread all the way around. It says here over 2,000 employees. That's doubling like every other month these days, so it's definitely more than that. We listed on the New York Stock Exchange for about 12 billion back in 2013. So we're really proud of that. Unfortunately, I didn't get any stock options during that. So we're also very proud that when Gartner just released their new quadrant finding, if you follow the Gartner thing, so we're up there in the top right-hand corner, 3rd currently, but every time we go up, we're moving further and further up to the right, and hopefully take out some of these other guys at some point. Okay, this is the last real slide. Just an overview of our different products. So we have EDR, which is kind of like our main product. We call it, obviously, EDR, they call it XDR. XDR because we can plug into your different products. So if you have Zscaler or Okta, we can connect to those, and then we can sort of say, hey, if you see a threat coming in, we want you to close that account, reset the password, suspend them, and all those kind of things. So we want to work with the other vendors. So we have an ecosystem where Rapid7 and all these other guys, we kind of have an agreement where we can sort of send data backwards and forwards and send commands and those sort of things. Cloud products, identity. If you have on-premise AD, we acquired a company called Ativo, which has an absolutely amazing product called Ranger AD, where we can protect your on-premise AD environment or Azure environment. We can do what we call deception, basically a honeypot. So if someone's trying to attack your AD, then we can kind of send them false creds and put them on a goose chase, which gives you an opportunity to then track down and find out what's going on. And that's it. All right, so that's the slides over and done with. Oops. So let me just do that. I forgot to spin these guys up. Let me just start these VMs. So we've got 2 VMs. One of them we're going to detonate the ransomware on. We're on the AusCERT network, so we'll see how that goes. So if you're on the AusCERT network, I recommend disconnecting right about now. So we'll spin him up. In the meantime, I'll bring up the console. So this is our main console. I don't want to spend... We're going to spend a little bit of time here just going through the threat and breaking it down so we can get a good idea of just what happened. But I'll just let that go. How is our... I definitely should have started this before. So while they're starting up, a bit of history. Yeah, so this was an airline company, again, not an Australian one. They had a phishing email come in. Well, it went to thousands of employees. They clicked on it. Within that email and within the Word document was PowerShell that went back end to a command and control server, which then did all of the stuff. So we're going to have a look at that today and just sort of see how that happened. So what we have is a replication of the workstation. I'm just going to log into it. So this is the attacker's machine. So for ease of use, we're just going to put it all on the same console. Nice strong password. We'll put him there. Files. So let's have a look at the files. So this is kind of very typical of, just your standard sort of files on any sort of workstation. And I'm also going to bring up this guy because what the threat actors did, and we'll have a closer look at it when we break it down, is they put all sorts of persistence in there. So task manager was one of them, registry keys. The whole idea is that if we clean the machine, it's just going to get re-imaged, like a redone at 9 o'clock the next morning. All right, so to kick it off, we need to start PowerShell Empire. Whoops, wrong directory. On the desktop. Who's heard of PowerShell Empire before? Yes, yes, yes. Amazing tool, absolutely. One of my favourites. Can I make this a bit bigger? View, customise, get rid of tabs. Okay, so this is our attacker. He's running PowerShell Empire. He sent an email to all of the employees to basically say, hey, look, read this, do whatever you want to do. And this is our document here. Bit of a COVID policy. Don't worry about reading it. It's irrelevant. But if we close this, we're very quickly going to see the blue screen pop up. So that is a PowerShell running. So PowerShell's running in the back end. And now we're starting to see connections. Can I make this bigger? What is it? Change settings? Someone said? Mate, look, who is that? See, I'm doing what you say now, so if you're wrong, it's not my fault.
Sorry, try
Apparent. Okay, so now we're on a wild goose chase. All right.
Font settings change.
Font settings. I can't. I haven't got my glasses on. There we go. Try this. How's this going to... Ooh, there we go. Okay, good. We don't have to spend too long here, but effectively what we have is you can see that once the PowerShell ran, there was a command and control coming back. So my machine, my Windows box, is now going out to theoretically the attacker's Linux machine, and it's basically saying, hey, what do you want me to do? If we come down, we'll see. So one of the tasks is to upload a file called GPO update. That doesn't really help by highlighting it. And GPO update is the ransomware itself. So this is the part that the attacker's like, okay, well, you're talking to me now, great, now I want you to do this, which is the ransom. We can also see down the bottom here that we've got persistence. So he's doing something with the scheduled task as well. So let's have a look. Our files are gone. Grand crab. So basically, at the moment, the ransomware ran. It's destroyed all of the files and anyone else on AusCERT's network right now. And we also have our ransomware note. So this is the exact ransomware note that they received. The only difference is the key's a little bit different. I couldn't use the same key, obviously, for this. But it's the same sort of deal. You know, install Tor, open up Tor, go to this link, and pay your ransom. So Grand Crab, this is Grand Crab version 4. So this is was their latest release before they... does anyone know the history of Grand Crab? Just curious. Okay. So Grand Crab was a ransomware group. They were very smart because they had an affiliate program. So they created the software, and then they gave it to anyone that would go and install it. And if you got machines ransomed, you get 30% of the ransomware fee. Affiliate program. And then in 2019, 2020, the Grand Crab group basically said, we're retiring, and we've got, I think they said they had 150 million from it. We're closing up shop. Not long after, REvil opened up. There's a lot of speculation whether it's one group moved to another group, but this is kind of what we're dealing with. Their job was just to create the most ultimate piece of ransomware, which is pretty good. Okay, so we have our ransomware note. All of our files are gone. Let's dig in and let's have a closer look to see what that looks like. So I'm going to use the SentinelOne console. One of our biggest users is for SentinelOne is incident response because they love what you can get out of it. And we're going to do the same. So we can open up, so here's our two files. So here's our Word document that had the back-end PowerShell script and our ransomware. So I'm going to open that up. Now this one I should be able to. It's going to look a bit funky, but hopefully that helps. As an incident responder, there's certain pieces of information that we really care about. So, you know, who was the machine? What file was it? So, you know, I want to start doing a bit of research. Is Recorded Future, anyone from Recorded Future here? Oh, I love that software. So we've hooked in with Recorded Future. You have Virus Total, Deep Visibility, which is our own product. So if we want to start hunting for this throughout our network to find out where else it is, you can do that. All of the standard information you'd expect, who it was, what machine, blah, blah, blah. I mentioned before about the XDR. So what we have here, I might actually make it a bit smaller, is we have the threat. So basically what happened, a breakdown of the whole thing. So it's all tied to MITRE. Actually, I'll make it a bit bigger. Let's scroll across. It's all tied to MITRE. So basically SentinelOne, if I scroll this bit, is saying, yep, so it was ransomware, behaves like ransomware, blah, blah, blah. And then there's persistence. Now we saw the persistence in the command line where you're basically running that. And if we go back to the machine itself and have a look at the task manager, we can see it right here. So there's the GPO update. So at 9 a.m., this is going to reinfect again and again and again until it's completely clean. So we'll go back to our console. So we understand the persistent side. Then we have the evasion. So we can sort of see it's trying to clear the Windows event logs, you know, as all good malware should do. It's trying to bypass Microsoft's AMSI detection engines for the scripts. It's obfuscating the PowerShell, and we'll have a look at that in a second. It's trying to encode the PowerShell as well. Again, these are all techniques that they're using to get around AV, right? Because if you have an AV vendor that's using signatures and you change one or two pieces of a letter from a capital to a lowercase, that signature is irrelevant now. That's why most vendors have moved away from signatures or into AI and machine learning and all those sort of things. Okay, suspicious registry key is put in, and we just got more and more stuff. Okay. Now, if you did have XDR, like you did have other things, which I don't have any connected at the moment, well, this is where we sort of like to hook into other things. So virus total, we've automatically reached out to do a search for virus total. If you're running things like Mimecast, we can reach out to grab Mimecast information, Okta. Depending on what other products you have in your network, we can connect with those and start to generate more information. Because within incident response, everything is about info and getting it really quickly. We want to drag it all into one spot and understand and really break down exactly what was going on. If you want, you can download the file and put it on a USB on your neighbour's driveway and see what they do with it. But what we'll do is we're going to hop into Explore, and we'll open it up, and this is where the real sort of fun begins. Okay, so we have our Word document, which then opened up a PowerShell. Is that, yeah, that's showing up okay? Yep. Then opened up a PowerShell, and then that PowerShell started to do all of these different things. If we look at the PowerShell, this was the data right here. This is the PowerShell command, and this is that when SentinelOne was saying it's all obfuscated, this is what it was talking about. So we can grab that. Has anyone here used CyberChef? Yes? Love CyberChef? I love CyberChef. So if you don't know, CyberChef is a tool that we can use to decode. So what we want to do is we want to put that PowerShell in there. So this is the encoding of it. So this is base 64 encoding. So they've encoded their malware again, so the sysadmins can't read it, or it's trying to get through AV, those kind of things. So we want to start to dig in and find out what they're doing. So we're going to firstly start with base 64, and it helps a little bit, but there's still a lot going on in there. And if we decode it again, decode text, and if we try this guy, and there it is. So now we've decoded. So the first one was encoding, so it's trying to obfuscate it, and now you can sort of see that you can see the capitals and the lowercase. It's all just sort of random things. Again, what they're trying to do, I'll see if I can make it a bit larger for everyone. What they're trying to do is get around AV vendors. So we can see, it's running, it's trying to get in the system, it's doing all sorts of funky stuff. So this is kind of the beginnings of it. So that's our PowerShell. Now from an incident responder, we want to work out, so that ran, what else is going on? So we can have a look at this guy, and we can see that it's trying to clear the security logs, which is interesting. The task manager, the scheduled task, so we saw that, and here it is again. So this is the actual command that they ran to put in there, so it will just continue to be getting reinfected. Attributes. Who knows what this is, the +H on CTemp? I'll give hidden. Yes, my man. Yeah, that's right. So what I'm trying to do is trying to hide that temp directory. It's trying to basically protect itself. So it's hiding the temp directory. It's putting in the piece of ransomware. And we can open this one up a little bit more as well. It's trying to delete the shadow copy, like all good ransomware should. They want to ransom you, so they don't want you using shadow copy. And this one's interesting as well. So it's actually, after it does everything, it's setting a timeout, and then it's deleting itself. So it's trying to clean up after itself as well. Then if we go into this one, again, it's trying to delete the shadow copy. They're really persistent on trying to get rid of that because they don't want you having any backups whatsoever. Open this guy up. It's not opening. Why aren't you opening? Okay, what's going on? I've made my screen so big I can't see what I'm doing now. Oh, and there we go. Who knows what this one is? Seen this one before? This part here is basically running a command prompt, but don't show it on the screen. Don't show it on the desktop. Again, so they want to get access to things. They want to run the command prompt, but they don't want it popping up so the user can see what's going on. And this one right here, which is really cool, is it's forcing Windows to use PowerShell version 1 as opposed to the latest PowerShell that has all the security mechanisms in it as well. And login, that's correct. So you can kind of see, and when you hear about different sort of vendors and security groups talking about APTs and threat actors, and you might wonder, well, how do they know who's who and what's doing what? This is kind of what they're looking at. These are what we sort of classify as the TTPs, or the tools, tactics, and procedures of threat actors. So we can look at this and we can go, well, it's doing this, 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 and this. Therefore, the assumption is it's this group. So there's not an exact science behind it, but everyone behaves a little bit differently. Everyone is doing certain things, like the using PowerShell version 1 or the deleting shadow copy twice, and those kind of form the fingerprint of the threat actor. Along with this flashy graph, we can also go down and we can see all of the events that happened during this incident. So we have file changes, and the reason why SentinelOne is recording all of that is because we have this thing called storyline, and storyline is so we can record everything, and if we want to, then we can roll it all back. So the idea is, and this is where the salesy pitch comes in, I suppose, the idea is that we can see an event, and if it does run, even if it's not legitimate, like I saw an attacker on someone's network trying to get past the AV that was built in, on the machine, and he couldn't get past it. He couldn't download his tools. He couldn't do all of these things. So he downloaded, or WinZip 7 or 7-zip was there. So he 7-zipped all their files, put a huge password on it, and it kind of ransomed them the old school way because they just couldn't get access to their files. Even with sort of SentinelOne, we can then go, well, that 7-zip process is malicious, so we're going to then roll everything back again. And we can do that because we have these storylines that sort of follow it along. So that's all of our files. Okay. All right, so now what is sort of SentinelOne telling us about it? So basically it's saying at the moment it's not mitigated. The confidence, the AI confidence is that it is malicious. But what it's doing is it's waiting for us to make a decision on what we want to do with it. So what we can do is we have a few different options here. So within SentinelOne, we could run a script. So you can basically run a script to do whatever you want, which is why it's so powerful with incident responders, because they can have their custom scripts, they can deploy this, and then they have full control of the machine. We could, if we wanted to, some of the actions, we could contain it, so it basically kicked off the network. Really important when you're incident response because time is sort of the essence. So you want to make sure that you have the time to do your research before it starts hitting up everyone. We can blacklist it, add it to a blacklist. So, if this person was the first one in, they're an early starter at 6 a.m., they're the first ones to open the document. What we don't want is another 5,000 employees opening that document. So as incident response, we go, okay, we're going to blacklist this process, and it's going to blacklist it across the whole environment. Or we have our mitigation actions. So we could do mitigation, or we could do the XDR response, which I don't have any set up at the moment. But this is where you would have sort of your Okta or however people are coming into your environment. You can then go, okay, well, force that user off the network, suspend them, change their password, make them reset their password, those sort of things. And then finally, we have the mitigation. So because we were looking at all those things, we have a few options here. We can kill and quarantine, which is kind of like the default thing that you want to do on your network all of the time. We can remediate it, or what we want to do is we want to roll it back. But when we roll back, it's not like a VMware snapshot rollback. We're not basically going, okay, well, 4 hours ago, VSS, your shadow copy was here, we're going to just take you back to 4 hours ago, regardless of what you're doing. If we open a new file, let me something in here. Just to put that in there. So all our files are gone, but the ransomware has been hit. But from a incident response point of view, we want to get the user back up. We've identified this granny crab. We understand what it is. We've taken all the notes. We've checked out. We saw the PowerShell script. We saw the malicious intent. We've decoded it. We pretty much know everything we need to know. Now we just need to get the user back up and running as quickly as possible. So we go kill and quarantine, we remediate, and probably the most important one is rollback. We'll mark it as resolved because we've done that. We can mark it as blacklist, put in some notes as to what you found and those sort of things. Mark it as a true positive, and then we're going to hit apply. If we quickly duck back to the console, we should see it all pop up. This is where I pray to the demo gods that they be kind. Auto queue. The age of the endpoint will talk to, there it is, there it is. The endpoint talks to the cloud manager about every 10 seconds. So we kind of just saw it pop up then where it's basically going, okay, I want you to roll back, I want you to remediate. At this point, the attack has been kicked off, so his session's all gone. All of our files are back, which is fantastic. So again, when we get the files, they are in the shadow copy, and we protect the shadow copy as if it's our firstborn, but we have our own sort of database of where the files are within the shadow copy. So when we do roll back, we're not just going, okay, the whole thing, we're kind of surgically going into the shadow copy and saying this file, this file, this file were involved within the incident, and now we're going to roll those back. So all of our files are back. We didn't touch our temp file, so our temp file is still there. Attack has kicked off. Now, it's important to get the files back, but probably in my mind what's also just as important is understanding that we can't get attacked again, and that any files that were happening or anything that happened during the incident has now been resolved as well. So we still have it here, but if I hit the schedule task, but if I just hit refresh, that should be gone too. Yep. So right now we're back to a point, and our file's gone too. So SentinelOne's taken away that ability to then be a user and run it all over again. So that's kind of a brief view of an incident that happened and how we kind of researched it and went into it. As you can see, it's fairly quick. So when you have the right tools, previous to this, it's a lot of searching and command lines, but when we have tools like this, it makes life much easier just to go in and then find where all these things are and to roll those things back as well. And that's pretty much it. Anyone have any questions at all?
We have one from the online Q&A.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So the question from the online was, could just removing the task schedule and running the AV fix the issue if the files are backed up?
Well, in this particular case, we just looked at the task, the scheduled tasks, but if we were to really break it down, there was registry changes, there was a whole lot more happening as well, which we didn't delve into, but that's kind of like in my mind, that's looking at the surface and trying just to take little bits that you see. A lot of these things, there's so much more happening in the background, and we want to make sure that we get all of it. But yeah, good question.
Thanks. Is there anyone else?
I'd just like to know, how long can you roll back for? If you are responding to an incident, how long do you have to roll back to recover your files? Like, how long will it hold that?
Yep. At the moment, it's 14 days. Good question. So the question was, how long do you have to roll back? And yeah, it's 14 days. Yep. We keep the incident in there for 12 months, so you can go and all that information we looked at is still there, so you can, if you do have reporting that you need to do, all that's there, but the rollback is 14 days. That storyline is yep. But yeah, great question.
Is that limited on the storage of the workstation?
No, because at that point, a lot of the telemetry is in our system, so we can basically, we're just going, hey, these are the files you need to pull out of ESS. Yeah. Good. To be honest, I haven't tested it. I haven't seen it run like that, but I can't see it being a problem. I mean, obviously there's more resource would be needed, but yeah, I can't see it being a problem. There's no limitation that I know of when it comes to how much data's in there. But yeah, good question. Yeah, mate.
So it's strictly volume shadow copy that you rely on? Like
Strictly.
when you install your agent, it goes and sets a
preferred setting, or
Yeah.
you had a client who just didn't have it turned on and
Yeah.
up the creek?
Yeah. So the question was, is it just shadow copy? Which is a great question, and yes, it is. But we kind of, once it's installed, we sort of set it up and put protections around it. So as a malicious attacker, we could be on there and we can actually delete, run the commands delete shadow copy, and it'll come back and say successful. And then you do it again, it's successful. So from the attacker's point of view, it's been done, but it's not necessarily, it's still there, we can still access it. Again, it's the one thing that makes SentinelOne different to the other vendors, and there's like a patent, I don't know the details around it, but there's a patent associated with it where we can pull in and just be surgical about it. But yeah, good question. Anything else? No, all good? Oh, okay, so I'm being told I've got to pull the drawer out. Now if you, so grab your tickets out. Yeah. Oh, okay, motorcycle, nice. Oh, yeah. Okay, it is B50. Blue B50. Yeah, it looks like it, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Oh, okay. You want to come up and grab it? Yep. So is this for you or the kids? Which one? Yeah, nice.
Flight over it, so.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Yep. If you have any questions, I'll be at the booth, so please drop in and we can go through it. I can pull it up again. We can dive deeper, whatever you kind of want to do. Yep. Thanks.
So,
Thank you.